Hello, and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for finding me and tuning in today. As you can probably maybe hear, not sure, but it's raining really hard today. So a lot of really heavy rain on the roof. It sounds so awesome. I love it when it rains. And we need a lot of rain at the moment in Perth and in Australia. So it's great for the farmers. So usually I would be down at the beach or walking my dog, or I would be in readings or maybe even down at the pub. If you know me, I'm not really big on ping pong chat. So yeah. Anyway, moving forward, today I'm going to be doing a video talking about the MC, the middle column in astrology. Sorry, tongue-tied. And so this is quite a complex thing to talk about. A lot of people don't know about it. It's there's a lot of misinformation, it's misunderstood. So I thought the last thing I want to do is do a video that is going to confuse the hell out of people. I like things to be very straightforward. So far, I am working on a series. I'm working my way through all of the planetary correlations in astrology. I've done the sun, I did the moon recently. I've looked at Mars, we've looked at Venus, understanding Jupiter. I've also done a video explaining what is Lilith, the black moon in astrology. I also have done a video talking about Chiron, the wounded healer in astrology, and what that means in your chart. So today I thought, I've got a minute, why not just talk about the MC? What is the MC, the middle heaven, the midheaven? So if you are familiar with astrology, you may know that the MC, or the middle collie, represents the middle of your chart, and it is the cusp of the 10th house in your birth chart, which simplifies your public persona and your goals. So it is your social standing that is kind of like a promise that you made before you incarnated about how you would be of service to the world in a public way. So in the midheaven, that is where we usually see career paths, which is where we see influences with social things like reputation, how people perceive us. So this is not your rising sign, where that's the lens that you see the world through. That's when you walk out the door. That's how others see you. This is where you fit in terms of what you bring into the world. What do you bring in terms of service to the world? And so this is complex because we have to look at all of the planets. We have to look at all of the houses. We have to look at all of the aspects. We have to look at all of the degrees. So there is a lot of, it's not, that's why you just come to someone like me, come to an astrologer who can look at your MC. So there are so many corridors that an astrologer can go down with a chart that you may book like a 30-minute reading or a 45-minute reading or whatever, but if you don't already have an understanding about what it is that you want to know about your chart, then you're just going to get a general reading. For some people, they will write in saying, can you please unpack my midheaven? And so what I will do is I'm going to go in there and look at all of the influences that are sitting in correlation with your rising sign, your moon sign, your Mars, and see where all of this is playing out, because it is all playing out in angles and degrees. But the midheaven in one's birth chart is generally in the 10th house. And the 10th house is ruled by the sign of utility, which is Capricorn, and the 10th house is a public house. So that means it's your job. It's you building a career. It's you building a legacy. It's you putting yourself out there. So where your MC falls in your chart, so if you get a standard birth chart done, there's a few websites you can go to where you can go look up your birth chart for free. You'll see at the very top, straight up in the middle, in the center of your chart, you will see something called an MC. And that is what we're looking at today. That's what I'm sharing with you here. Okay, so that MC will be in a degree of an element like earth, air, fire, water, but it will also be in a degree of sign, and it will sit in an axis. All right, so where the IC sits in the axis and what house it's in will show us how it's going to play out in your life. All right. So a lot of people, this is why people freak out and they run away from people like me when when we're talking about astrology, because a lot of people, whether they look, how do I word this as nicely as possible? You think that everything that you do is just merely you. You know, a lot of people don't follow astrology because they don't like this idea of determinism. When you start to understand the occult and you understand astrology and planetary correlations, and you'll understand something called fate. I will be doing a palmistry video talking about how to read the hands at some point. What we're talking about here is higher fate or preset determinism. So determinism is a preset thing that you're playing out whether you like it or not. It's there, all right? Some people call it fate. Some people call it intuition. Some people call it coincidence. But we know that there's no such thing as coincidence. All right, so when we're looking at your chart and we're looking at this aspect of your chart in your midheaven, that job that you have, that career that you've chosen, that first husband that you had, that dog that you chose, it didn't just happen. Okay, yes, it was a dance between your choices, but your choices are influenced by your astrological placements. All right, and they are being dictated by the soul or the will of God or the will of the universe. That's why astrology is like kind of like, some people would say it's like a cheat code. And some people would say this is forbidden knowledge, especially around religious concepts, because it's me looking at the blueprint of who the fuck you really are. So, and also encouraging people as well to look at themselves, because a life with no reflection is worthless. A life with no spiritual purpose is also a life that is worthless. There's no higher understanding. And if you're living in a world with no higher understanding, that means that you're not connected to yourself. You don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are and what your soul is doing here, then you won't know how to interact with other people in a deeper way. So you'll be just going around like an NPC, a non-playing character, and just purely interacting with people on a superficial level. And to me, it seems like a waste, because you're not really, in a relationship with your soul. So I would say the sooner that you get a relationship with your soul, the sooner you actually get to have a vote in the effects of your life, if that makes sense. All right. So for me, I'll use myself as an example. At a very young age, I very specifically remember I was standing on the canteen steps of my primary school canteen. I was probably about 8 or something. I think probably 8 or 9 years old. And I was always very drawn to like magic and wizards, probably like you. I was very interested in like the Greek gods and Medusa and spells and Merlin and all that type of stuff. Fantasy, I used to watch Hercules, the legendary journeys. I'm a big fan of Xena, warrior princess, and all of that type of stuff. Like I just had a real pull towards the mystical and a real kind of like rejection of the mundane. And I didn't really know why, but I was always interested in truth. I was always interested in telling the truth. I was very honest, like in a lot of ways. I used to just say what I thought. And that would be very offensive to people at a young age, when you just say the truth, and you don't have filters necessarily. I have a triple Sagittarius stellium with a lot of placements in the 9th house. and in the 12th house. So I'm a 12th houser, all right? So hello and holla out to all of the 12th houses. So I was always interested in, what the 12th house is all about, spirituality and going deeper into mindfulness and understanding higher spiritual realms, and very interested in like psychic abilities and the manipulation of energy and stuff like that. That was what I was always drawn to. All right. So a lot of 12th house placements, because the 12th house is ruled by Pisces. So Pisces in the 12th house does deal in peeking back the curtain, looking deeper into the psyche. All right. And then I've got all that Sagittarius placement in my chart, which is all about exploration and freedom and teaching and higher learning. And so that is the aspects that I go for, which is truth telling, trying to find the truth in something. And then my MC, my middle heaven or my midheaven, is in Leo. So right now, when you're hearing me talk, what am I doing? I'm broadcasting myself. Sagittarius, all in the 9th house, rules broadcasting. It rules podcasts. So it's needing to be seen. And so as I got older, the more that I shared knowledge or the more that I grew, I began to understand my MC was in the 5th house, which is Leo. So my middle column sitting in Leo is about being seen. It's about being visible. It's about having a voice. It's about projection. And so your middle heaven, where it's sitting, will all be connected to the signs and the houses and the placements. For example, some people will have their middle heaven in Cancer, and they are naturally just drawn for their career. Their purpose will be that they want to mother you. A lot of middle heaven in Cancer people end up in nursing, and they would love to just be in your bedroom with you, just sitting on the couch talking, or, sitting on your bed with you talking about life and trying to nurture you. And can I cuddle you? And can I make you a pot of soup? And can I get into your psychological mind, in your subconscious mind? Deep emotional relationships happen in the moon aspect. And so, yeah, it's a lot. So the middle heaven, the easiest way to look at it is look at the element of the sign that it's sitting in. Is it fiery? Is it a fire sign like mine is? So it's bold. I'm not here to follow what's been done. I'm here to just like shake the fuck out of stuff. All right. And my Sagittarius aspects with my moon and my rising and my Mars is also that I'm just like coming through. This is what I'm finding. This is my truth, and speaking my truth and really pulling higher interdimensional information and sharing that with people. So it's a teacher. And that's ultimately what I guess in these types of chats I'm doing. I'm teaching you, I'm educating you, I'm illuminating something. All right. So that would make sense. So you can't fight your destiny. Same with Saturn returns. When we have our returns, you can't fight a return. You can't evade what you're here to do. You're either on the path that you're meant to be on, which is in terms of your career and the service that you bring, the light that you bring into the world, all in the midheaven, or you're not. And a lot of people that choose a path that is not based in their midheaven, generally when they get to like their second Saturn return, which is like late 50s, early 60s, they are absolutely wrecked because they didn't follow the path that they were meant to follow. They didn't honor their soul and their service of what they're supposed to do. So say, for example, you've got a lot of heavy placements in your midheaven in, say, Leo and Aries. Well, and you decide that you're just going to be like, look, my passion is really performing and making art and being creative. But I'll just take that kind of Taurus midheaven placement where I just, work at the bank, and just play it safe. So how far could that really go before you start to really regret that decision? Before you start to really go, hang on, this is not really my passion. So remember, passion is always where purpose will be. So when what you're passionate about is where you should always pursue your midheaven. All right. So the midheaven is a very important, it's not a planet, it's more of an aspect or a degree and an angle. That's why a lot of people have trouble understanding the midheaven, because they're like, well, it's not a planet. No, it's not a planet, it's a point in your chart. And that degree that it's set in is matters as well. It also works in degrees. All right. So also understanding where your midheaven sits is really important to understanding the direction that you need to take, that you're kind of here to go in that direction. All right. So astrology is a balance of understanding free will versus determinism. And that's why when people come for a reading and we look at the midheaven, it's like, well, no wonder you're feeling stuck or trapped. It's because you're not in alignment with what your soul's purpose is really here to do. And you've really complicated this stuff. Like you're a fire sign. So why the hell are you in some kind of bookkeeping job, that's very like repetitive and robotic? That would be more of a Virgo midheaven, where it's like unpacking things in a very deep, analytical, myopic way. But fire sign midheavens are not really concerned with that so much. They're like pioneers. They're here to trailblaze. They're here to, stir shit up. And so all of this midheaven stuff will always play out with your rising and, of course, your sun and your moon. And it's your career. All right. So yeah, it's really awesome. So if you've got a midheaven that needs to be noticed, well, you need to be noticed. So stop playing small. Stop playing small for other people's comfort. And that's a big thing with social conditioning and social engineering and indoctrination. People follow a path that their family wanted for them, or what their mother said, or what their brother said, or what their boyfriend said they should do. And this is not honoring the promise that is made in the midheaven. The midheaven deals in promises that you made before you incarnated, before your soul merged with matter in the womb, that you're not gonna be the fucking, the best friend at the wedding. You're meant to be the bride. You're meant to be the star. All right. So the midheaven demands of what your highest calling is. All right. That's why it's a straight up line in the middle of your chart, and where it goes straight up through whatever planet that goes into will be all matched to that aspiration within your chart. All right. So it's a dead straight line that goes straight up. And that's because it's for your highest purpose in this life. So if you're not in alignment within yourself, within your workplace, or if you feel stuck, get a reading and then always come back to what would be most suited for your midheaven and what element that would be. Because we need a whole variety of people that bring different aspects to the world within their career. Everyone serves a function, the baker, the banker, the shoemaker, the actor, the artiste. Everything that we bring into this world is all of a higher vibration of our soul's purpose. And ultimately, one thing I would like to share, which I have noticed a lot particularly in modern day, in the modern world, is that we do see, or I see a lot of people that all operate from what I would say a narcissistic bubble. And they're not intentionally doing it, God bless them. They don't really know the difference, but you're here to create. And yes, when people say, I'm here to manifest the world that I want and get the life that I want, this is very singular. We also have to understand that humans are not just here to create their own little world and live in like a little echo chamber of their own narcissistic bubble. It's all about them. We're also here to co-create, and co-creation affects the world. All right. So when people start to look at the spiritual world and they start to get those, a lot of them become quite narcissistic, because they kind of create this bubble where it's like, it's all about me. It's all about what I'm manifesting. It's all about how I'm going to get something, putting me first. And I totally understand that. You have to take care of yourself first before you can help others. You can't give something that you don't have. You can't pour from an empty cup. I totally understand. But the issue that I often have with people is that they don't really want to face that we're here to co-create. And it's the co-creation of the world that we're creating as a community, as a world, as a country stage. All of that plays out, and that has the effect. Why? Because humans are an interdependent species, and it is a numbers game. That's why the show Survivor is so successful, because it is a, macro and the micro kind of thing. That's why it's like a numbers game. So the direction where people mostly go is where the society goes. It's where the pendulum swings. So it's a numbers game. That's why we have like politics. That's why we have governments. Okay. So I hope that made sense. So if you're new to astrology and you're seeing the MC on your chart, it is the translation of the Latin phrase of middle sky or midheaven. All right. And so it will always be there. And this is like a guiding point for your life's path journey and what career and public influence you're going to have in the world. All right. So it will be broken down. So break it down, keep it simple. I always say with people in astrology, when you're coming in, look at the planets, then look at the sign, then look at the houses and how it plays out. So if your MC is in the sign of Aries or it's in Scorpio, then Mars will be, ruling your personal planet, and Pluto will be ruling your personal planet. So explore those symbols and pathways. All right. So think about them. Are they traditional visible planets, or are they kind of like hidden planets? Are they malefic planets? So it goes on and on. It can get quite complex, but I'd rather you just kind of get a basic understanding of the aspects within your midheaven and where it sits. So if it's in Venus and it's in Taurus and it's a midheaven, it's a Venus Libra midheaven, then it will be like aspected with beauty and with fairness and with relationships and with, getting property, making money. If it's a Cancer midheaven, then it will be more of a personal type of job. It'll be connected to moon phases and aspects within that. So yeah, it's a lot. But it's interesting. And I think that, once we start to understand where all of this is sitting, we also, there's other aspects within astrology as well, where we've got transits and we've got is it a planet that's moving fast? So it goes on and on and on. All right. But it gets quite wild and quite mathematical, but that's what you come to an astrologer for. So keeping things simple, your outlook, your professional outlook and your goals will always be connected to the 10th house. All right. And what degree it's in, always. And the 10th house is like career, building a legacy, your goals, your ambition. So if you've got like a very strong Venus, and Venus does rule finance, or if you've got, say, then, your midheaven would be about you building stability, security, probably trying to get property. It will be very visual. If I look at someone's chart and the midheaven's ruled by Jupiter, then it will be like moving quickly. It's very expansive. It might be wanting to build a business. You should really be self-employed like I am. And then having multiple sources of employment coming through from different sources. All right. So that midheaven would be quite big and bold and fiery and truth-telling and like, this is the truth, deal with it, that type of thing. All right. So need to travel, very loud, bouncy, that type of thing. So it's interesting. But yes, I hope that you've enjoyed me sharing with you a bit more of my astrological knowledge. If you're wondering what career I should go into, or, finding out who I am, finding your calling, I'd say always go with what you're interested in. There's no use in pursuing a career in something that you hate. You don't want to, the system of the matrix is already built in a way that traps you anyway. So the luxury of self-examination for a lot of people these days isn't even on the table because they're too busy trying to survive every week, doing 10, 12-hour shifts in a job they hate, to come back to a house that they barely live in, and they don't even live there. They just kind of sleep there at night, go back to work every day. So you don't want to be doing something that you really fucking hate. You should be choosing something that feels spiritually fulfilling to you. But in order to do that, you have to know thyself. And for a lot of people that have been conditioned into, Plato's allegory of the matrix, it's like your father or your mother have kind of like, what was your father said you should do is what you should do, or other people enforce their will over you for you to go into a career path that you really are not interested in. It's the quickest way for a very dissatisfied life. For me, it's all about art. It's all about expression. Mine sits within Leo, and Leo rules creativity. It rules excitement, and it playing out with all my Sagittarius aspects in the 9th house, which is about travel. I love traveling. I love going all around the world. I love going to temples and jungles and understanding cultures and teaching and the occult. All of that higher spiritual aspect is all playing out for me in my 12th house, which is all about me going higher to God and understanding the reasons of why we're really here. I'm not interested in systems that humans have created and taxation and all of these types of oppressive laws that humans have made up to trap each other. I'm interested in universal law, in spiritual law, in higher levels of intellect, higher levels of expansion. That's where I cultivate my gifts and power. And that's why I'm a psychic. It's why I'm able to tap into higher realms and access the astral realm and do readings. That's my calling. That's my gift. So for me to deny my gift would be to deny God or to deny the universe of what I really am incarnated here to do. All right. So in astrology, also you will notice that your north node, if your north node was not quite developed in a past life, it can be very prominent in a conjunct within the north node of this life. So yes, it's all connected to past life stuff. Where we've come from and where we're going to is also connected to the south and the north nodes in astrology as well. All right, so I know this is probably a lot, but yes, it is very interesting. Take your time with it. There's no rush in learning any of this stuff. Just know that, everyone's chart is very unique. Everyone's journey is very, very unique. So when you get your natal chart done, you will see that thick line that goes right up into the 10th house, and that's where we're looking to find that MC. And as soon as you do, you can start to look at how it's going to work out for you. If it's in Mercury, then it's going to be teaching and, taking in data, the full-time student, that type of thing. If it's with me, then it's more like, 12th house for me, it's more, higher levels of learning and exploration in other realms. And that's what it would make perfect sense, because I make art, and an MC in the 5th house within Leo is about self-expression. So I make alchemical art. I make tarot cards with symbols and signs and animals, which can change the alchemical process in someone's brain and help them access higher states of consciousness. And so tarot is a tool that is used to talk to the spiritual world, which would make sense because my Leo sits in my MC and it's playing out within the 12th house. So it's all about that, connection to the subconscious and the spiritual world, like a wizard. Yeah. Anyway, I will leave it here. I hope all of this has kind of opened up the door for you to start to have a look. Remember, your moon sign is your emotions. Your sun sign is your outer world. It's the body that contains you. And we need to go deeper than that. We need to go deeper than sun sign astrology. Your rising is the lens that you see the world through. All right. So your midheaven is where all of this plays out in a public way in terms of your career or your public image. And so, yeah, I guess some people kind of do see me a little bit like a Leo. I like to present myself well. I take care of myself. I dress well. I work out. I know that my body is my temple. So I don't really drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I look after myself, I keep myself very clean. Think of it like a window. If your window's filthy, you're not going to have a very clear image of looking through the window now, are you? And so how other people see me is important. Of course it is. Without our projection, we're nothing. In fact, in a world now, in a modern world, your projection can actually override and trump everything. So we are living in a world now where unearned value is competing with earned value, and people don't even realize that or know the difference. So people just filming themselves now of just naturally in their bedroom, taking photos of their feet, that can actually be now considered content. So it's like what we consider content now in a public house has very much changed. People do videos of themselves eating food and they make lots of money. So it's a very unusual time, okay? So any of your MC aspects can be playing out in many different ways, all right? So I'm just merely showing you the door. That's all I'm doing. I'm just like, here's the door, go check it out. If you would like to book me for an astrological chart reading and you put in your notes in the email that you would specifically like me to focus on your MC, then let me know and I can look at all of the job titles and all of the things that I will see there that would be best suited to you. So I'm going to get back to my readings and enjoy this kind of rainy day. I have been walking. You can probably hear my dog in the background. She's snoring. Usually we're down at the beach and she's enjoying the sea. But yes, as you can hear, she's in a very deep sleep. Hang on, I'll see if you can hear this. No, she stopped. The one time that I tried to record her snoring, she stopped. All right. Thank you so much. Lots of love and blessings to you. And I will see you in the next upload. Please subscribe. Bye, bye, bye.